In recent months, MI5 raised the terror threat level in Northern Ireland to severe. Security forces are dealing with bomb threats, intercepted weapons, and targeted attacks on police officers. It is a jarring reality to see play out in a modern European city. To a visitor today, Belfast looks like any other bustling capital, but the ghosts of a 30-year conflict are waking up. In 1998, two warring communities signed the Good Friday Agreement. It ended a brutal 3-decade civil war that left over 3,500 people dead. Conflict resolution experts still view it as a near-miraculous diplomatic achievement. This map shows the mechanism of that peace. The treaty functioned by detaching identity from geography. It allowed the physical border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland to disappear entirely. With 0 checkpoints or military installations, citizens could freely identify as British, Irish, or both, without the land dictating their allegiance. Then came 2016. The United Kingdom voted to leave the European Union. The majority of voters in Northern Ireland actually voted to remain, but the overwhelming numbers from England and Wales pulled the entire kingdom out. Leaving the EU meant leaving its customs union and single market. By law, any merchandise or traveler moving between the UK and Europe now requires strict administrative control. You have to put a physical border somewhere. But building one in Northern Ireland threatens to rip up the very foundation of the 1998 peace agreement. This map shows the original border drawn in 1921. Notice the jagged, irregular shape. It was mathematically engineered to capture 6 specific counties, guaranteeing the maximum possible majority for Protestant Unionists, the community loyal to London. That geographic design trapped a large minority of Catholic nationalists on the northern side. Stripped of equal rights and demanding a unified Ireland, factions eventually turned to armed resistance. That resistance descended into a highly militarized, visceral conflict. Neighbor killed neighbor, and British Army helicopters patrolled civilian neighborhoods around the clock. Fast forward to Brexit. The most obvious logistical solution, Scenario A, is to put the new customs checks right back on that historical land border. This diagram shows why that fails. Place a customs officer on that border, and dissident groups view them as an occupying force. Protect them with armed police, and if targeted, the government must deploy the army, reopening Pandora's box and collapsing the 1998 security arrangement. Any physical infrastructure on the dirt of the land border acts as an immediate tripwire for nationalist paramilitary violence. So London and Brussels negotiated Scenario B, known as the Northern Ireland Protocol. The map updates to show their compromise. They kept the land border invisible and dropped the new customs checks into the ports of the Irish Sea. Faster, escalating tension. The nationalist community accepted this, but it instantly enraged the Protestant Unionists. In their eyes, a sea border legally and economically cuts them off from the rest of Great Britain. The political reaction was immediate. The dominant Unionist party collapsed the local government in protest, refusing to participate in power sharing until the sea border was removed. The gridlock quickly bled into the streets. Loyalist paramilitaries, feeling cornered, began orchestrating hijackings and calling in bomb threats to force the government's hand. Brexit forced a binary choice on a society that relies on gray areas. Rebuild the land border, you provoke the nationalists. Build a sea border, you provoke the Unionists. Both scenarios risk civil war. Beyond the diplomatic arguments over trade protocols, the society remains fractured on a street level. In Belfast today, 97% of social housing remains strictly segregated by religion. Massive barricades, literally called peace walls, still divide Catholic and Protestant neighborhoods. The trauma is highly localized. Victims' families frequently cross paths with the ex-combatants who killed their relatives. The peace holds, but the underlying psychological wounds were never resolved. And now, this chart maps out a dynamic that changes everything. The 2021 census recorded a historical shift. For the first time since the Statesman steps in, the Catholic population mathematically outnumbers the Protestant population. The ballot box reflected the shift almost immediately. Sinn Féin, the political party historically tied to the IRA, won control of the government. Sinn Féin's arrival in power, combined with the administrative chaos of Brexit, has accelerated the momentum for a united Ireland. Mainstream political leaders are now actively laying the groundwork for a border poll, a public referendum to unite the island. But loyalist communities have stated in no uncertain terms that they will violently resist any attempt to legally separate them from the United Kingdom. The Good Friday Agreement worked by blurring the lines of national identity. Brexit demanded those lines be drawn in permanent ink. Now, a generation born into peace is forced to reconcile these conflicting geographic demands before the demographic shift reignites the underlying tensions.